Welcome to another edition of the Black Male Podcast. I am your host, AP, and today is episode 46. Today's show topic is going to be on high functioning depression. Now, a lot of people will think that depression is something that only affects certain people, but depression is something that affects everybody, right? We are living in this human time and this human experience that we have right now, and a lot of things that we go through and we face, a lot of them are not by our own hands, but sometimes things are dealt to us. And when in response to that, we have to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to respond to that. And sometimes we react to certain things in a certain way, and it will put us in a certain position. And it will lead to us feeling a sense of hopelessness, a sense of doubt, a sense of depression. You know, a lot of people don't know that they have depression until it is brought to their attention. And then so many people are in such denial about other things when it comes to being depressed because they've been told and taught just to ignore some signs that, you know, they may be going through something. And a lot of times when people are going through things, they have a hard time grasping that idea that they may be functioning at a high level, but they're secretly dying and hurting on the inside. So we're going to talk about that today, about high function depression. And if this is your first time watching the show, I appreciate you watching the show, however you're watching it, whether you're watching it live, whether you're watching it on YouTube. But I want to give you a definition about high function depression, okay? Because it can be masked for something else, and people think it's mental toughness, but it's not. So here's the definition. High function depression is also known as high functioning regular depression. Okay, it describes individuals who experience symptoms of depression while still managing to maintain their daily routines and responsibilities. It is not an official clinical diagnosis, but it is widely used. It is a widely used term to capture this specific experience. While they may appear to be functioning well on the outside, individuals with high functioning depression may internally struggle with feelings of sadness, fatigue, low motivation, and other depressive symptoms. Now let's see that. I said it's a mask for mental toughness. And it's not the same thing. Mental toughness and high function depression is two totally different things. Mental toughness is something that you feel like you're going to accomplish and you're going to get through, and you can see through that, right? And you keep pushing forward and ignoring some things that are happening. High function depression is something that you can see and you can feel that something's not right and something is going on with you, and you're having a hard time grasping, or you're putting a mask on to make everything and everybody around you feel like everything's okay, and it's not okay. The strongest person, the person that gives the most advice, sometimes they are hurting and dying on the inside because they're too busy giving and giving and giving to others and pouring into others, and no one's really pouring into them. They haven't had a time to look into themselves or have time to even take a deep breath or a step back and say, you know what? I need to take this time for myself, because sometimes people will make them feel guilty for doing that and being there for their own selves. See, sometimes people will put you in a place where you feel like you are subject to them and subject to how they feel and subject to how they're going about. Right. And that can be like in a relationship, that could be at work, that could be just a friendship. And it's just part of being in a human experience with people. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to make that person happy or satisfied, because everybody's responsible ultimately for their own happiness, because it's going to be your life that you're living. It's going to be your experience that you have. But the examples that you're going to put forth is the things that's going to come from you and sometimes from the outside. A lot of times when people know that they are where they are, and sometimes it's by their hand and sometimes it's not, it's based on the opportunities that they have. And with those opportunities that they have, they can either build upon that, or they can learn from some things that they can move forward through and get to a certain spot. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's hard for people to be in a space where they have some clear thoughts and a clear intention, because the motivation or the motives that are sent to them are not clear. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get any further, I'm going to get a example for you guys. And I think this is going to play into a few things as far as being a high function depressive person and the mental toughness. So this person is talking about high function depression and some of the signs. And after she's done, we'll jump into that. Okay. So we'll cue this up.
They get up, get dressed, go to work, and cry in silence when nobody's watching. They check on everybody else but feel uncomfortable, ask for help themselves. Their smile is practiced. Their I'm fine is automatic. And them breakdowns be private. They post funny memes, give solid advice, and hold everybody down. But when the world gets quiet, their thoughts get loud. You think they're okay because they're productive. but they only stay busy to avoid feeling anything. High functioning depression don't look like laziness. It looks like overworking, overthinking, and never resting. They keep it together in public, but fall apart in the shower, in traffic, or right before bed. Be careful, because that strong friend you admire might be the one praying to make it through the day. Just because they don't say I'm struggling doesn't mean they're not drowning inside. So when someone says check on your strong friends, don't just repost it, do it. Because the ones that say I got it are usually the ones that don't. They suffer in silence, they laugh through pain, and they master how to function when they're barely holding on. High functioning depression wears a mask. If they trust you enough to take it off, protect that moment. If they never take it off, check in anyway. Because strong don't mean okay, and silence doesn't always mean peace. Be careful.
And that is true. The strong people, they hurt too. That's like having a superhero in these movies and they don't feel pain or they're not going through some things. And you can look at all these superhero movies like Superman, Batman, any Marvel, any DC comic movie that they have out there. And at some point, the people that everyone is relying on, they have a moment and a point to where they're coming to a sense of, you know what, this may be a little bit more difficult than I'm able to grasp right now because the expectations that I have for the task that I have in front of me is not working out. And it's hard for me to understand that with me going through and getting through this point right now, I need to have some self-check with me. I need to know that I'm going to be okay when I'm going through this. See, a lot of times when it comes to being mentally tough and a lot of different regimens that we go through just so we can get through certain things. Some of us have been taught that, and some of us have been born into that. Some of us join certain forces like they play sports or they join the military and they're taught to be mentally sound, mentally tough, to always look to the next thing, to always look at the light out of the darkness. But the main thing is sometimes everybody can't do that. That's like having a job force or a group of people in front of me and I'm telling half of those people to make sure that they're pushing forth and pushing through, but they're not going to get the message as it's relayed to them, right? But the other half are going to get that based on where they are. And they could be already in a position where they're going to take advantage of that opportunity that they have in front of them. A lot of high functioning depressive people, they are suffering inside because they are too busy working and helping other people. They want to make sure that everybody else is good. They're checking on their friends. They're checking on their family members. They're trying to make sure all the needs are being met. You know who struggles with that a lot? Single mothers and a lot of black men. Single mothers are one of the biggest proponents of high functioning depressive people. And I'm telling you why. The reason why is they are charged and tasked with making sure they have everything in line with the kids, the medical, the physical. We even have school coming up. Let's think about that. The stress about getting school done, getting school clothes, making sure the kids are safe, making sure they're going to have a productive year, to make sure that they can go to school and come home in one piece. Sometimes that drives people to think and have certain levels of anxiety, but that will lead to depression if some things happen within that community, especially if something happens with that child's friend. And that's a very hard thing for a lot of people to grasp and understand. See, single mothers have traditionally suffered the most. And the reason why they suffer the most, they've had certain things happen to them and for them that have allowed them to be in a space where they have to move forward and push through and be strong, even when they're weak. We've seen plenty of movies and we've seen plenty of examples. And even in your own house, you probably have, when there's times when that single mother have gotten real quiet, or she will go in a room and she starts praying, or she'll go into a place where she's just really quiet and you'll say, "Mama, what you thinking about?" And the mama will be like, "I ain't thinking about nothing, baby. Everything gonna be okay." Or a child will see a single tear, wipe a tear away and say, "Mama, everything gonna be okay." And if that's not you, you know somebody who's been in that. Or we've seen a movie where that's happened. And at some point, it's gonna catch you and have you understand exactly what that person is feeling, because you may have been there yourself to be in that situation. And a lot of women that have that, they get the bad side of that, because their idea is to make sure my kids have everything they have, because I may not have had that. And right now I want to push forth and make sure they have everything they need to be successful, because they're providing them an opportunity that they may not have had, or an opportunity that they had, but they squandered away. And they feel the weight of what's going on and why it's important to make sure they have everything that they need to be successful. Success thing is a hard thing to balance, and it's a hard thing to manage and maintain because a lot of people want to base success based on other people, and you cannot do that based on other people. The only thing that you can do based on other people is yourself. You're going to be in competition with yourself 100%. And sometimes in being in competition with yourself, it will lead you to feel frustrated and depressed clinically. And sometimes it'll make you stress harder to get to a certain space because you see someone else doing something. You wonder why you're not in that spot to do that, but you don't know the road and the path that person got there. So you can't look at what other people have and see where they are or the things that they're doing and feel like you're coming second nature's coming behind them. That's not going to be something that's going to help you. That's going to lead further for you being upset and frustrated about where you are. And then in your mind, you're going to say, you know what? Something's got to be better. I got to do better. And you push and you push and you stress and you overwork yourself. And you get to a point to where your body needs rest. And then when you sleep, you finally get sleep and you are gone. You are sleeping so hard because you have just worked yourself to the limit. You pushed your body to the limit. And then when you wake up, you jump and you wake up, and you think you missed something. And you didn't. Your body just needed rest. See, sometimes not just our body, but our minds need rest. Sometimes we overthink and overwork ourselves to put ourselves in situations that we necessarily don't have to be in. We will put ourselves in situations that we weren't even charged or tasked to be around or to have. Because if we are a high functioning person, then we are going to do things that's going to put us in a spot where it's not really looking like it's affecting us. You know, some people will say that I can't see how that person's making it happen. I can't see how that person's moving on. A lot of people will relate to that as being something that is a higher deity that's helping them with that, which is such as God. Some people will think that they've gotten some help from someone, and they've also feel like they're just in a position to where they can be successful. But a lot of times people don't understand that a lot of people suffer in silence, and suffering in silence doesn't necessarily going to help them achieve the things that they need to achieve because they're just struggling. See, a lot of times when people struggle, and it's not just a certain group of people, it's everybody. Everybody's going to get to that point to where you are a high functioning depressive person. And a lot of times people will think that you just have to be mentally strong and mentally tough to move through it. And you'll have those people that'll come around and say, oh, you can do this, you can get through it. But if I will really tell you the things that I'm really going through, either you're going to just like gloss over that, or you're just going to say, oh, you got that, you always got that. But sometimes I may not want to hear that. Sometimes I just may want you to sit there and listen to me, get this off my chest, because it is like a weight on my shoulders that I can't get off. And if I get this off, and I'm not saying this because I need help, I'm just saying this because I need a positive release. See, now sometimes people will have that release as being something else. They will use other things and go through other ways to get certain things done. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's wrong. That's just how they're looking to see fit to get what they need at that time to make themselves feel better. And people are all okay to do that because they're in charge of themselves. Now, if you're out there and you're doing that, I would say do everything that you can that's going to lead to something that's not going to be detrimental or negative for you. The reason why, if it is negative or detrimental to you, you got to think about it. It's going to affect you, then it's going to affect other people that's around, and especially for those who are single mothers, they know that I'm not just making these decisions for myself. I'm making these decisions for the people that are around me, especially my children, because I want to make sure that they are set up for everything. You think about it, you notice every time that there is an athlete that does well, and especially from the single mother homes, and they do everything for their mom. The first thing I said, and they tell their story, and they'll say, my mom has been the biggest supporter that I've had. My mom has been there when there been nobody for me. Their mom or their grandmother, they knew that what I wanted to do, they poured into me. I had all these other things, and that is great that they can be celebrated. But the hard ones is when they're no longer around to be celebrated. They're just celebrated in memory. And that's hard for the people that are doing the celebration because they knew they wouldn't be where they are without that high functioning person that was depressed. And a lot of times they're just forced to push through and move forward because that's all they know. That's all they've been taught. I see the experiences and the examples right in front of me because those are the things that I saw. So I went ahead and grabbed the flag, and now I'm doing the same things. But I need to stop that and say this is not going to happen for this next generation from me because I want to make sure that they're in a better spot. So single mothers, you are to be applauded. There's a lot of things that you do that are not brought to the forefront, but you are applauded because there's a lot of things that you do to make sure your kids not only have a roof over their head, you have ample transportation, but you also make sure that all the dots are all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed for your kids and for your house. So that's a major, major thing. It is a major thing. So I want to give my compliments to you, and I want to say that I see you out there, and I know it's not easy, and I know a lot of single mothers that are out there that are just trying to make the ends meet to live another day. And I know it's hard because I see it and I hear it. So I salute you. Okay. So let's move on to these black men. Now, a lot of black men have high functioning depression. And the reason why they have high functioning depression is because they're born into a situation that wasn't conducive for success. The reason why they're in the situation where they're in is because there have been certain situations and certain factors that have plagued them to not be successful. And we could think about the school system. We could think about the street life. We could think about just having things or seeing things that are communicated to me through television, through movies, through radio, through other outlets that will allow me to feel like I'm a second class citizen when I'm a first class world. And that doesn't work for me. I want the same things that other people have too. I want to live a certain life that they have too. But me as a man, I don't know the struggles that another person have had. And I can't put that type of pressure on me to think that I'm going to get the same type of love, admiration, and success that somebody else got because they may have just been picked for that. That's just maybe their path. But I see that what they have, that doesn't mean that they're better than me. That just means that my path to success is going to be different. And a lot of men struggle to face that reality. And the reason why they face that reality is because someone will see that someone else has what they have, and they're been told that you're less than because you don't have what this person has. Or, see, this person is doing this. Why can't you do that? This person has this. Why don't you have that? Well, you can't live by that. You can't go off of that. And the person that's pouring that type of toxic nonsense into you, you should be very careful and wary of the words that they're using in reference to you. Because what that will do is that will force you to make some decisions that you're not readily able to make or to deal with. And the hard time and the hard thing about that is I need to know that these decisions that I make are not just going to impact me. They're going to impact others that are around me. Because I wear a mask that everything is good and everything is okay and it's not. And if you think about that, there's a lot of people, if you think about it, anyone that has died by suicide, or they've done something and put themselves in a situation where now they have to sit down for a while, right? And when you think about those people, you think about the situation that they've been in and how they had to struggle, they had to push through, they had to move forward, they had to do certain things to be a certain place and to be in a certain lane that they didn't want to be in. Sometimes they thrust it in situations that they don't need to be in. Sometimes they're thrust it in a situation that they can no longer handle or maintain because sometimes it's hard just to have life be life. And sometimes it's hard just to be around or do some of the things that you're required to do. But when we are getting to that point of we're understanding where we are and the things that we need to do, sometimes just sitting down and taking a deep breath or exhaling and being in a space of where we are mentally in a safe space, men and women, is very hard, very difficult sometimes. And some people don't know that. Sometimes I just need a few minutes to myself because I need to make this work. I have to be in love with myself enough to know that I need to take care of myself, number one. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are worried about taking other people because naturally that's what they are. They're givers, or they're in places where they can do certain things and it's hard for them to do other things. And when they get to those spots, it's difficult for them to make sense of what it is. And it's hard. It's a hard knowledge, and it's a hard thing for them to continue to do because they will get to those pitfalls. They will do some things that they don't like to do, and it will make them feel a certain way. Now, if we think about that and we think about a man's struggle, and not all men are doing this. And some men, they're able to get away with it, and some men are not able to handle this. And that's okay, because humans are humans, okay? And it's not going to be for everybody, all right? And it's not going to be for all single mothers, because not all single mothers are going through this either. But for the guys that are going through this, I see it. I know it. I understand it. And the reason why I see it and I know I understand it is because sometimes somebody has been somewhere you've been, and they've gotten out of that, and they're trying to do some other things, okay? And with somebody knowing that and understanding that, they're trying to pour into you some things that's going to be beneficial and helpful for you. And when they do that, they will help you out in a way that you're not expecting. They're going to help you out in a way that you're not expecting. And when you get that help, at first you're going to really question that and not understand what it is or where they're coming from, because you're just seeing the outset or the relying of them to have the answers. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the answers. That just means that they have something that they've gone through that have helped them out, that they're now pouring into you, that's going to help you move forward. That's why being mentally tough is not the same thing. And people will say that I need to be mentally tough and mentally strong, and I got to keep pushing forward. But at what point and what time do you not understand? When I sit here and I'm alone and it gets real quiet and those thoughts get loud about everything that I'm worried about and everything that are on my shoulders, and I'm holding on to some things that I really shouldn't be holding on to, because I have to make it. I have to make this thing work, because if I don't make it work, this is going to be a very difficult, hard thing for me to deal with and to move forward from. I'm depressed. I'm having a hard time. At some point, somebody just don't look back and be like, damn, why I gotta be like this? Why am I really going through this shit like I am? And some people have that. Some people are able to see that. Some people do the why me? Why am I going through this? I'm a good person. I have this. I don't have that. I don't understand what makes this person better than me. I don't understand why I could never get ahead. See, those people that have that mindset, that know that they want better for themselves and know that they want more from themselves, because they know what position it's going to put them in and they know where they want to be in life. I want to be able to have more freedom. I want to have more success, but I have to put myself in a situation to where it's going to be plausible. It's going to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then why am I doing it? If nothing makes sense of why you're doing what you're doing, why are you doing it? If I'm going to be depressed, I'm going to be depressed. And it's not something that you can break out clinically, because it's not a clinical depression, because it looks differently. Because on the outside, it's going to look like, oh, that person got everything that they need. That person takes care of their business. They do this, they do that. You know, sometimes people will ask me, how is it that you're able to work as much as you work and still function? And you know what I tell them? I say, you know what? At one point, you have to look at what is the main thing, the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Sometimes you have to leave certain things where they are. So when you leave work, you have to leave work where it is. And you can't bring home into work. And sometimes it's easier to say and hard to do. But you have to have that boundary with yourself and say, it cannot infiltrate where I am. I have to be where my feet are. And if my feet are right here, this is what I'm going to do. Some people will say that is being mentally tough. Some people will say that's a high functioning depressive person. And sometimes people will say, you know, you're just making it through the day. How many people do you know that are doing that? They have a bunch of stuff going on outside of where you are, or they got a bunch of stuff going on at home, and they're at a function where you are, and they're just talking to you, and you really see what it is that they're going through, and you're like, damn, how are you making it through? How are you making it every day? It's that goal that they see for themselves. It's something that they want for themselves. And it's not the place where they are, it's where they want to be. And where they want to be is more important than where they are. And sometimes people do not know and understand the role and the guile for sacrifice. It's hard and very difficult for people to grasp and to capture what sacrifice really is. It's hard for people to know and understand that if I'm sacrificing something, then that means I'm looking forward to something in the end, right? But with me being a high function depressive person, I'm going to miss something sometimes, because sometimes when that noise gets quiet, my thoughts get loud. And when my thoughts get loud, it takes me to a place I don't want to be. And then sometimes it makes me think something about myself. Then if I think those things about myself and I think about it enough, and people pour in some toxic events or some toxic things around that, I may start believing that. And if I start believing it, I'm going to start behaving that way. But that doesn't mean that that's who I am. That just means that's the position that I'm in. And a lot of times people will go through things in life that are setbacks, and they're not mentally ready or prepared to handle those, because they're just forced to have an answer, be there, be accountable, show up, instead of saying, I need a damn break. I need to sit back and see where I am. I got to find something that's going to help me cope with the things that I've just gone through or the things that I've just experienced. Because if I don't do that, I may repeat this in the future, or I may not be able to get through this. And not getting through this is going to be something very difficult for me, because it's going to be hard for me to see the end of where I am as opposed to where I'm sitting right now. Think about that. And think about the people that you know in your lives that are going through that. And you think about the people that are really having a hard time right now with just life in general. And you don't have the answers for them. And sometimes you don't know what to say. And sometimes they don't know what to say. They just keep pushing. And they keep pushing. And sometimes they push themselves to the limit. And sometimes they can't get to it. I know somebody right now that pushes herself to exhaustion because she wants to make sure that everything is done on her end for her kids and her house. It's a fact. And sometimes we could be on the phone, and next thing you know, she's asleep. And I know she's asleep. And it's not that she just fell asleep or she has narcolepsy. It's that she's tired. She's not just physically tired. She's emotionally tired too. She's mentally tired as well, because there's a lot of things in her day she has to make sure she's getting through to make it to the next day. I know a guy that's doing the same thing. He had a major situation. He was out in the hospital. Major situation. And he's just getting back to his own, to where he's starting to feel like himself again. And he still has depression. He's suffering through some things, because there's some things before that situation happened for him that now he's able to look back and say, you know what? I probably was going through that, but I never really looked at, because all I knew was to keep pushing, keep going forward, and then maybe it'll get better, and maybe I can do something with my hands, and it's going to turn around and change for the better for me. But it didn't. It didn't. It just made things complicated for him. And now it's now putting 10 on 5, so to speak, for him to get back to where he was. And just to feel like he can be himself again, he had to take a step all the way back and sit down for a while. And now that he's doing that, and now that he's coming back to being who he is, the conversation that he has with me are completely different. And the reason why those conversations are different is because he sees where he was. He knows what he has to do, but he knows that there's some things that he still wants to accomplish for himself, because he has to live with himself and the things that have happened to him on a daily basis. And everybody has to have that self-realization. I have to be able to live with myself on a day-to-day basis. I also have to be able to make sure that everything that I'm going through, I'm able and I'm equipped to handle. And there's a lot of things that we go through that we're not equipped to handle, because let's face it, a lot of us have just been told, or ignore it, or it's nothing, or you know what, you strong, you can handle that. But in those strong people, sometimes, where do they go to grasp their peace? And sometimes they want to seem like they have peace, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're looking for an outlet, and sometimes that outlet is something that can be detrimental and damaging for them, but not just them, but anybody. Sometimes they just want to let loose and just forget everything, but sometimes they cannot. And when they cannot, it's hard for them to come back and continuously and consistently do things over and over, because we're not robots. We're not robots. We're not built like that. And if we were built like that, it would be a completely different scenario. This probably wouldn't even be a situation or a topic. But people that have these things, that are forced to be in certain spaces and certain situations, it's hard for them to have certain things because they see where they are. They know where they want to be. And the main thing is, I'm not happy with myself because I feel like I let myself down, or I let other people down, because they're relying on me. And with people relying on me, I know that I need to do my best every day to get to where I want to be. Single mothers and men, single mothers and men have high functioning depression. Majorly. Let's think about some other people that may have some high functioning depression. Let's think about people who are going through college. Let's think about people, it's their first time being in the workforce. Okay, let's start with the people in college. So a lot of times people in college, they have high functioning depression because they know that they have the weight of their family on their shoulders, especially if they're a first generation college student. And a lot of times the family don't know the pressures that come on that person's shoulders as far as being the person to make it out of what we made it out of. Because there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with a lot of things. Being the first person in college and making it through and trying to get to that point and being successful, there's a lot of weight, because not only do I have to struggle every day, or I have to go through certain things every day, but the goal in mind that I have is I have to do this for everyone else. It is my job, and it has been thrust on me to have certain things or to make it. That's why a lot of times when people don't make it, they have these breakdowns. Now, I will tell you, in my profession, I see a lot of people that go through that. And I'm not just people that are just going and having regular jobs. You'll see people that have, and I don't want to diminish anything, and I don't want anybody out there to think that having a regular job doesn't mean that you don't have high functional depression, because it affects everybody, okay? But in this example, I'm going to talk about folks that are in medical school, some people that are in law school, some people that are working on their doctorate, some people that are in Ivy League colleges, some people that are just in regular college, and they're trying to make it, and they want to make something of themselves. And there's a high probability that they won't be successful because of some of the things that they're experiencing and some of the things that they're going through, because sometimes they don't know how to take a step back. See, in college, sometimes when you are thrusted into that mantle of being the person that actually made it, a lot of people don't know the stress and the pressure that it comes on that person to be successful and to maintain that. The maintenance of that is important. The maintenance of a lot of things is important. That's like someone saying, I got this type of house and this type of car. That's fine. You can get that, but maintaining it can be the hardest part of it. And sometimes that drives people to make decisions that they don't need to make. So that's why college people, they have a hard time doing that. Or even people that have their job right out of high school, people that go in the military, people that have other things that they do. You know, there's a lot of things that people are going through that sometimes we don't know. And they're not going to share that because they will feel embarrassed by letting people know that they may not have as strong of grasp as people think that they do. And it's okay. It's okay. So I want to give you a difference between clinical depression and high function depression. So this is the difference, okay? While high function depression can share some symptoms with clinical depression, it is not necessarily the same thing. Clinical depression is a formal diagnosis and may involve more severe symptoms and functional impairment. Functional impairment. If you know someone that has depression, it's hard for them to even see the light of day, because everything is existing inside their mind. Their mind has been compromised, and it makes them feel like they can't accomplish the basic things. They fail to shower. They fail to take care of themselves. They fail to eat. They struggle just to have things happen for them and to do things for themselves that they would usually do. So I don't want to say the word normally, because normally it only works for certain situations. But things that they usually do, that happens. But what would lead to high function depression? What if you had a stressful event that happened in your life? I want you to think about that. If you had a stressful event that happened in your life and it triggered something inside of you, inside your body, inside your mind, and it made you have some other type of intrusive thoughts. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. That just means that you just had some intrusive thoughts. And with those intrusive thoughts, sometimes they will lead to certain actions, but sometimes you can feel yourself slipping away and you can bring yourself back. And sometimes some people, they can't because the weight is too heavy for them. And when that weight gets too heavy for them, they get in a situation where they feel like they have an anchor tied around their legs and it's been dropped to the deepest part of the ocean, the deep blue, right? That's where it's just like complete darkness and they can't see anything beyond that. And it's hard for people to understand that some people have that. And if you're somebody that has that, there is help out there for you. You just have to be willing to have the help being given to you. You have to be open for the help to happen. And if you're not open for that help, then what's going to happen is you will have certain situations where you're not going to be in a situation where it's going to be beneficial for you to have something positive happen for you. A lot of us suffer and struggle with high function depression. It can also lead to underlying medical issues. Heart attacks, strokes, those are two major things, two big things. Why? Because it's stress related. It's stress related. And sometimes it's the stress that we put on ourselves. And sometimes it's the stress that the world puts on us. Or sometimes it's the stress and the pressure that other people put on us as well. Because it's your job and your duty to make sure things that happen because we've been put in a situation to where we need to come out on top. And if we don't come out on top, then we feel like a failure. You ever sat there sometimes and felt like you failed at something that you tried your hardest because you feel like hard work pays off? And that's another thing and another concept where people are misguided. Hard work doesn't mean that it's going to pay off. Hard work just means you're working hard. That's all that means. It takes opportunity and a little luck for hard work to equal success. That's what it is. And some people have more opportunity than others based on where they are and based on the opportunities that are around them. And sometimes people can get to that spot and not know that they have that opportunity afforded to them and they could squander it and not know that this was a gift. Because just as you got this gift, somebody else could have got this gift. Because I'm going to now socially isolate myself from everybody because I have this high function depression because of the stress and this pressure that's been placed on me. And now I have these medical issues and I can lead to some substance abuse and I can lead to me just withdrawing to myself. I don't want to be social. I don't want to be around people. You want to go and hang out? Nah, I'm good. I'm just going to go home and I don't feel like doing anything. And, maybe I'll just do this. And their speech is lowered. Their motives and their actions, they just seem like they're not motivated for anything. And sometimes some people who are high function depressive people, it's the opposite. Their motor is very fast because they on the go, always going. And they just need to slow down. And as soon as they get a chance to slow down, they just crash and burn. And when they crash and burn, they sit back and they say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I'm not getting anything out of what I want. And it's hard for me to internalize this because now I feel bad about this pressure that's been placed on me. And it could be pressure that I placed on myself, or it could be pressure that other people placed on me. But I have to be willing to know and understand that that's what it is. And especially when it comes to trauma. And trauma can be in the face of a lot of things that we face. So if you don't know that you have some type of trauma, because all of us have lived through some sort of trauma, we just haven't put the name to it. Because we just want to this happened to me and I got through it. That don't mean the next person's going to get through it. You can't base the things that you've gone through and how you've made it out as helping somebody. That may not help that person. That person is not wired like you. Everyone's not wired. Even people in your own home, in your own family, they're not wired like you. There's going to be a difference. You can have out of 4 siblings, you can have two of them that are quote unquote successful in society's eyes. You can have one that just graduated high school and has a steady job and has been on the job for years. And you can have the last one or anyone in between. You can have them just making it. And with them just making it, they can be better off than the other three. And you don't know that because they don't have any pressure. And even to have the pressure that they've been placed on them from other people in the family doesn't mean that they are not having a high function depressive moment. That just means that they're just masking that. I'm going to mask that. That's not easy. So a lot of people that are out there, they're having that high function depression, and a lot of people that are out there that are suffering through that, please know, recognize that, see it, and understand it. And the next thing, what you need to do is you need to reach out and speak. Sometimes it's hard to find someone to speak to because you don't want to be judged. And I get that 100% because we can't trust everybody with things that are very close and personal to us, because sometimes people will use that against us, right? Instead of utilizing the information I'm giving them to help me. Sometimes all it takes is someone just to be there, and sometimes it doesn't work. And so let's think about this in a grand scheme of things. If you are not taking care of yourself and you know you have a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on yourself, and a lot of weight on your shoulders to make it every day, you're going through certain spouts, and you're going to have times when you're going to be a high functioning depressive person. You're going to have times when you're going to look at yourself and say, damn, I don't want to do this today, but I got to do it. And if I don't do it, nothing's going to get done. You may be a high functioning depressive person. If you look at yourself and you say, nobody's going to do this but me, and I can't rely on nobody else but me, you're a high functioning depressive person. If you see where you are and you know you're not where you want to be, and you see that light at the end of the tunnel, and you know it's on a train, but it's a way out, not only for you, but for other people, you may be a high functioning depressive person. And this doesn't mean that I need clinical help. This just means that I need to put things where they belong. And if I don't put these things where they belong, they'll take over me. And if they take over me, they may take me down. And if they take me down, then I may not have the strength that I need to manufacture the opportunity, or for opportunities presented to me to come back the way that I need to. So let's pivot a little bit. Okay. We've been talking about this high function depression. Okay. So I'm going to play this next clip. And this next clip is going to be a gentleman that was on another podcast called The Pivot. And this gentleman was talking about the difference between high functioning depression and being mentally tough. Okay. So I'm going to play this now.
Functional depression that I talk a lot about. And functional depression is simply, if you don't know about it, everything in your life is good outside, but inside you feel like something is missing. And it's probably about 85% of people right now, millions of people that's dealing with functional depression. They handle home, they handle work, they handle business, but they still feel like everything is missing. And it's because they keep going. It's because, and I'm going to say this, and I might get looked at sideways, it's because they're mentally tough. And for me, mental toughness is not always what we show. Like, mental toughness is not running through a brick wall. Like, sometimes that might be necessary, but also mentally tough is saying, you know what? I don't need to run through that brick wall because it's going to hurt me. And I think for as men, if we can share this, I think as men, there's so much on our plate. We got to handle everything. We have to be strong. And what I realized, it's about being mentally smart and not always mentally tough. Mentally tough for me is being able to take a break. It's being able to say, you know what, today, if I keep going, I know I'm going to burn out. I'm not going to burn out. To me, that's mental toughness.
That is tough. So I'm going to talk about that. So being mentally tough and being mentally smart is very different. The reason why you want to be mentally tough is because certain situations are going to come to you that you are going to have to face and you're going to have to just see through. Okay, that's just life, right? But being mentally smart is me knowing and understanding anything that happens around me, or to be very prepared for something that may come my way. I need to be prepared to respond and not react to them in the way that I need to. I got to have that, because if I don't respond to it in the way that I need to or the way that I should, it's going to lead me down the rabbit hole. And that rabbit hole I might not want to be in, and I might not bring myself out of that rabbit hole. But it's going to be something that's going to be very beneficial for me as a person, because at the end of the day, who is in charge of you? No one but yourself. And if I don't know that, if I don't understand that, and if I don't see that, I'm just saying that I need to be mentally tough for certain reasons, and I need to see things the way that they need to be seen, and I need to go forth and make sure that these things are working out, because I need them. But it ain't helping me, and it's not getting me where I need to be. And having my mind and having my thoughts and having my emotions regulated and checked by me are important. And if I don't have those things regulated, and they won't be important to me, and if I let things go by the wayside, I'm going to crash and burn. Who helps you pick up the pieces? Sometimes it's people who've been in that same spot. Sometimes it may be the person that's going through it with you, because you never know. Somebody that's offering you that bit of advice may need you to get that off their chest. Sometimes people utilize other people when they're going through something, or they have a certain situation that they're going through, even if they don't have the same type of situations, but they need to balance that off of that other person, because sometimes I need this to make sure I can stay afloat, because I just need to have something. Thank you for checking up on me, because you know what? I was having a hard time. I was having a hard day, and I just didn't know where I was going to get to or where I was going to get out of this situation. And the main thing is I need to know and understand that I'm going to be somewhere where I need to be. And if I can't be there, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. I want to be mentally smart in every situation. I want to be mentally smart, because I know at the end of the day, that's going to outweigh being mentally tough, because mentally tough is just a condition. Being mentally smart is a way, right? It's something I'm going to make sure that I can move forward through every day, being mentally smart. But it's hard when you don't have those tools and you can't utilize certain things, and you're being used for certain things or for certain reasons. So I need to know that, understand that, and live through that. I'm going to leave you with this last thing. If we were just to go through life and just live aimlessly and not know and understand the things that we are in charge of, we will drown in our own fears. We will. Because we know at the end of the day, some things that we want to get done will not get done. We also know some things that we need to see will not be seen. And we know that some things we need to see through will just go on the wayside. That's our show for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for watching as well. Like, share, subscribe, share the knowledge, share the wealth. Get this out there to someone. Grab someone. Give somebody some tools. Give somebody some keys. Always check on that strong person. Check in with them. It's okay. The person that's giving that advice, you could check in with them. Tap in with them. 5 minutes is a lifetime. Even if they say they're okay, check in with them. Tap in with them. Because most times, they're not. They just don't want to let on of what they're going through. I'm AP for the Black Male Podcast. And as always, be good to yourself and be good to others. Peace.